Welcome to Module 1 of the Rapid Takeoff and Estimate Software Skills course. In this module, we're going to learn how to import PDF plans into PlansXpress and ensure they're at the correct scale. You'll practice tracing over walls, windows, doors and structural openings, and drawing a lean-to roof. I'll show you how to set items to be non-estimated items, and I'll also show you how to view a 3D visualization of your plans. So hopefully you've launched PlansXpress. If not, you can do that now, that would be great. And the new drawing dialog box should pop up, this one here. If you can't see this new drawing dialog box, if I just close it down, sometimes your screen may come up like this. If you click on the File menu, which is this blue tab at the top left of the screen, if you hover your mouse over New and then select the New from Template option, that allows you to select a new drawing template before you begin your drawing. So from here you can select a drawing template, and that controls the page size, the scale, the orientation. And there's also options for pages with and without notes blocks on there as well. When you're planning to import a drawing into PlansXpress, the easiest way to do that is to select a drawing template which matches the size and scale of the original drawing that you're importing. So for our example today, we're going to select the A3 1:50 plain page template. So click on that. When it's highlighted in blue, that means it's selected, and then click OK. The reason we're selecting that template is because the drawing we're importing has exactly the same size and scale. So once you've selected that template, click OK. And I'm just going to give you a quick tour of the PlansXpress screen before we start importing the plans. So all of the tools that you need to draw your plans can be found on this ribbon. Sometimes it's called a menu, sometimes it's called a ribbon, at the top of the screen. And on the ribbon there are several different tabs. And we're going to use 4 of them during our training today. So firstly, we've got the architectural tab, which is already open here. The architectural tab contains all of the building design tools that you need to draw your plans. So we've got everything from walls to doors and windows and openings, stairs, flooring, roofs, and so on. If we click onto the Drawing and Annotation tab, we're going to use the Image button here to import our PDF plans today. On the Drawing and Annotation tab, you can also find a range of generic drawing tools. So there's tools here to just draw lines and shapes. There are also tools to draw construction lines and to add dimension lines to your drawing. If we skip along to the Modify and Selection tab, we're going to be using one of the buttons rather on the Link to Estimator Express options on the right hand side here. This tab also contains tools for modifying things on your drawing, so you can do things like move, copy, rotate and stretch items on screen. Finally, if we click on Views in 3D, we're going to be using the 3D Preview button later on. But importantly, for importing plans and tracing over them, we're going to be using the Pens button. There is a special scan mode within the Pens dialog box that you can switch on for when you're tracing over existing plans. So we'll come back to that shortly. I'll refer to this main part of the screen as the drawing area. Underneath the drawing area, unless you've moved your windows around a little bit, you should have the command window. Now, as you probably guessed, the command window gives instructions on how to draw each item. So it's really important to refer to that. On the right hand side of the screen, again, you might have clicked on a few things and your screen might look slightly different. You may have this screen visible, but there's the notes picker. The notes picker allows you to drag and drop labels, so things such as your labels for your elevations and your layouts and individual rooms. You can click and drag those names onto your drawing. At the bottom here we have the Layout Explorer. Layouts are a more advanced function. You can create different layouts of your drawing and save them. So you may, for example, have a plumbing layout or an electrics layout or a drainage layout, for example. We're not going to be using layouts today, but just to flag up the fact that that's there. We also, if we click here where it says Properties Explorer, You could view additional information about the item that's selected on screen. And then, as I've touched on before, we've got the 3D view window here as well. You can switch off all of these different windows using the show hide options on the Views and 3D tab at the top here. So, for example, we could switch off the notes picker or the command window. If you ever lose your command window, you need to go to Views and 3D and tick command window to switch that back on, because it's obviously essential that you can see it. Okay, so let's make a start and import our existing plans. You can import existing plans from a scanned image, so from just a normal image file, from a PDF, or from a CAD file. So if you go to the Drawing and Annotation tab, just a quick note that if you want to import AutoCAD files, those are usually DWG or DXF files, you would use this button here, the DWG DXF button, to import a CAD file. If you import a CAD file, you can actually click on existing snap points on the drawing, which can make it quicker to trace over them. But for our training today, we're going to import a PDF because we find that's the most commonly imported kind of image. So if we click on the Image button, then a window pops up allowing you to locate and select the file that you want to import. So hopefully you can find this file called Rapid Takeoff Example Plans PDF. So if you can locate that file and click on it, and then click Open, you'll then get an image preview. If the PDF has multiple pages, you'll see there's arrows at the bottom here that allow you to click between the different pages. Now this means you can select the page that you want to import. So on page 1 of our PDF, we have got some visualizations of the extension that we're going to be drawing and estimating during the training. As you can see, it's just a pretty simple lean-to extension on the rear of a house. So I just wanted to show you that so you can visualize what we're aiming for. So if you click onto page 2, this page contains the plans that we're going to trace over. So this is the page that we want to import. So you locate the page you want to import and then click OK. So now you might sit here thinking, oh, it's not finished, it's not imported it yet. What you actually need to do is place the PDF image on the page. And if you have a look at the command window, it's telling you to give the first corner point. So you need to click the first corner point where you want to place the PDF on screen. So if you can locate the bottom left-hand corner of the drawing page, you should find a snap point called Origin. This is the origin of the drawing. So if you can locate that origin point and then click the left mouse button, click and release the button, that will indicate the first corner point for the PDF. The instructions are now telling us to give the second corner point for the placement of the PDF. If you move your cursor to the top right-hand corner of the drawing page, you can see that your cursor is controlling the size of the PDF as we import it. So you need to, as closely as possible, place your cursor over the top right corner of the drawing page. You may find it useful at this point to zoom in on the corner. You can do that by scrolling the mouse wheel towards the screen. You can also press and hold down the scroll wheel on your mouse. If I do that again, you press and hold down the scroll wheel and move it around. You're dragging the drawing page around, you're panning around the drawing area. So let's just practice doing that for a moment. If you scroll the mouse wheel towards the screen, it zooms in. If you scroll away from the screen, it zooms out. So you zoom in and out, and then hold down the scroll wheel to move the whole drawing page around. So those skills of zooming in and out using the scroll wheel and dragging the page around are two really important skills for being able to comfortably move your way around the drawing page. Okay, that aside, if you locate that corner of the page then as closely as you can, and then click the left mouse button once again to place the second point of the PDF. And that is your PDF placed on screen. You might need to zoom out again so you can see better. zoom out so you can see the whole of the drawing page, and you'll see that the imported PDF plans have appeared, and we've matched the page size and scale to the original drawing. So you can see on the original drawing here it's an A3 1:50 page, and that's the template we selected. So that should mean that everything is to scale on the drawing. We could do a quick check of that by measuring a line on the PDF. So if you go to the Modify and Selection tab, you'll see on the left-hand side is a button called Measure. You can use that to measure anything on screen. When you're measuring, it's best to measure the longest dimensioned line that you can see on screen. So that will give you the most accurate measurement. So we've got this dimension line here at the top of the drawing, which is 4,800 millimeters long. So if you scroll into that dimension line so you can see it more clearly, so scroll the mouse wheel towards the screen. I should say that when you're scrolling, you will zoom in on a position where your cursor is. So if you want to zoom in on where it says 4,800, place your cursor over there and then scroll the mouse wheel towards the screen for more accurate zooming. Okay, so if we have a look at the instructions on the command window, it's telling us to give the first point. So we're basically just going to click on the two ends of the dimension line and measure and make sure that matches the original drawing. So locate one end of the dimension line as carefully as you can. It's obviously not going to be 100% accurate. And then click the left mouse button to indicate the first point of the dimension line. Scroll out again. You might need to hold down the scroll wheel and move your mouse to the left so you can locate the other end of the dimension line. Again, scrolling the mouse wheel towards the screen to move in, to zoom in. If you hold down the Shift key on your keyboard now, that will ensure that the line that you're drawing is straight. You can do that whenever you're drawing lines on screen. So hold down the Shift key, and then once you're happy, your cursor is over the end of the line as near as possible. Click the left mouse button. So you've measured the two ends of the dimension line, and then you'll see this Measure Information dialog box pops up. This gives us some different bits of information about the line, but the line that we want here is the fifth one down. It gives us the length of the line, and on mine it's telling me it's 4,803 millimeters. Obviously this isn't an exact science, so allow a few millimeters either way, but it tells us that this is basically the correct scale. So that's fine. So hopefully your screen is telling you something very similar. So I'm going to click close for now and scroll back out by scrolling away from the screen. Now, if you had imported a drawing of an unknown scale, it's possible to rescale the imported drawing. It's a slightly involved process, so I'm not going to go through it today, but there is a video on the support website if you ever need to do that. If I just show you the web page here, it's called Import and Scan in PlansXpress. And that will talk you through rescaling your drawing so it's to scale on screen. Okay, so we've imported our PDF. We're now ready to start tracing. But before we do that, we want to switch on scan mode. Scan mode allows us to clearly see all the architectural elements as we trace over the existing drawing. Because when you're in scan mode, everything you draw appears in a bold red pen, so you can clearly see it over the top of the existing plans. So to switch on scan mode, we need to go to Views in 3D, to the Views in 3D tab, and then we need to click the Pens button. And you'll find at the top here there's a display drop-down box. If you click on the drop-down box there is a scan mode option. So click to select scan mode and then click OK. So we won't be able to see until we start drawing our architectural elements on there, but we're now in scan mode. So hopefully you're getting the hang of zooming in and out of the screen and of panning around the screen by holding down that scroll wheel. So try and use those skills as we go through drawing the different parts of our design now. Let's add some construction lines to the drawing. Placing construction lines on your drawing enables you to quickly and accurately trace over the walls. It's not essential to do it. I prefer to work that way. So we'll do that, and then you can decide whether that's the way you'd prefer to work. So if you go back to the Drawing and Annotation tab, you'll recall there are some construction line buttons here. So we're going to start by selecting the vertical construction line button. And if I move my cursor onto the drawing screen, you'll see that the cursor is controlling the position of that construction line. So let's place our construction lines from left to right. We're going to place one on the external wall here, on the external wall of the existing building, I should say, one on the left wall of the extension and one along here. So you may find it helpful to zoom in, so scroll that scroll wheel towards the screen and then place your cursor as closely as you can over the top of that line of the existing building, and then click the left mouse button to place the construction line. Once you've placed it, it will turn blue, and you can see actually that PlansXpress is ready to place another construction line straight away. So if you zoom into the outside of the next wall along, and then you can click once again to place your next construction line. You might find it helpful to hold down that scroll wheel, drag the page across, and then we can place this third vertical construction line along the edge of this external wall here. So hopefully you've got a drawing which looks like this with 3 vertical construction lines in place. Once you've placed those 3 vertical construction lines, we can then place some horizontal ones. So you'll need to click the horizontal construction line button on the ribbon at the top. And we're going to repeat exactly the same process to place the horizontal construction line. So we'll zoom in again on the rear wall of the proposed extension, click to place that, and then place another construction line along the back of the existing property. So you should have 3 vertical construction lines and 2 horizontal ones. Once you've placed all of your construction lines, you need to press the Escape key on your keyboard because PlansXpress is still ready and waiting to place another construction line. When you press the Escape key on your keyboard, PlansXpress drops whatever tool it is or whatever item it is that you're drawing. So we've cancelled drawing construction lines by pressing the Escape key. So now we've got construction lines in place, we can quickly trace over the external walls. We're going to start by tracing over the rear wall of the existing property here. Obviously this wall doesn't need to be estimated because it's part of the building which is already there. We do, however, want to draw the back wall of this building so that we can estimate for the structural opening and we can tee in the new roof to the existing building. So we're going to draw this wall and set it to be non-estimated, which means that the cost of the wall won't be added to your estimate. Obviously we don't want that. So click on the Architectural tab to see all of those architectural tools that we've got, and on the far left we want to click on the External Wall drop-down menu. You'll see that PlansXpress comes supplied with a really wide range of different external wall types. So we're going to just use a standard brick and block cavity wall for this example. So if you hover your cursor over brick and block cavity wall, and then a number of different templates appear. It doesn't actually matter exactly which template you draw in this case because it's part of the existing building, so we're not going to be estimating it. So let's just select the ground floor cavity wall, 2.325 high floor to joist height, single story. Just as a note, if you select a multi-story template, PlansXpress will add 225mm on for the floor above. So select that ground floor cavity wall, 2.325 high, single story template, click on it to select it, and the dimensions wizard pops up. From the dimensions wizard, you can enter the key dimensions of the wall. the dimensions highlighted in yellow are used to draw the wall. The dimensions highlighted, or rather just in white, they are purely used for estimating purposes. So obviously if you're doing a rapid takeoff, you need to work your way through all of the input boxes. If you were just drawing plans and not interested in estimating, you could just check the dimensions in the yellow input boxes. So as you can see, the first screen of the dimension wizard is all about the wall dimensions. Review each dimension carefully. So obviously the wall height comes from the template we've just selected, so that should be correct. Check that the width of each leaf is correct. If you're estimating, you might want to check the height of coursing blocks. If I just click this Show Tech Tips tick box at the bottom of the window, you'll see that the tech tip appears on the top right of the corner, giving you a bit more of an explanation about the dimension you need to enter for the selected dimension input box. Once you've reviewed those dimensions, click Next. Page 2 of the dimension wizard deals with the foundations. As we're not estimating these walls, we can quickly skip through these screens. We'll review them in more detail when we're drawing the new estimated walls. Again, page 3 deals with the footing dimensions. So most of it doesn't really matter when we're drawing an existing non-estimated wall, but you do just want to check that the cavity width is correct. Click Next. And then page 4 deals with the finishing options, so the plastering and decoration. Again, for existing walls, we're not particularly interested in these at the moment because we're not going to be estimating them. So click Finish. So once you've worked your way through the dimensions wizard, PlansXpress is ready to draw our existing walls. Take a look at the command window at the bottom of the screen. It's telling us to give the start point. So all you need to do is place your cursor over the end of a wall where two construction lines meet. When you hover your cursor over items on screen, you'll find various snap points. Snap points, such as end and perpendicular points, help you to accurately place items on your drawing. So where two construction lines meet, as in this example, you'll find an intersection snap point. The word intersection pops up to tell you that. So if you can't see snap points at the moment, you need to press the F7 key on your keyboard, and this will switch on snap mode. There are two different modes. There is snap mode and dimension mode. For what we're doing today, you want to be in snap mode. So press that F7 key at the top of your keyboard, and then hopefully you'll be able to see the snap points with the little message appearing up on screen. So once you've located that intersection snap point, click the left mouse button to place the start of your walls. A couple of really important things that you need to understand when you're drawing walls. The arrow that you can see on one side of the wall indicates which is the external side of the wall. So you'll notice a set of wall tools appear at the top of the screen when you're drawing walls. So we've got the external side drop-down box. If you click on that, you can switch between left and right, so you can set which side of the wall is the external side. So on this occasion, it needs to be the left-hand side of the wall. So click onto that external side drop-down box and practice changing the side of the external side of the wall. There is a shortcut key for changing the external side as well. It's the F key. F stands for flip. So if you press the F key on your keyboard, it will have exactly the same effect. So I'm pressing the F key on my keyboard now. So practice doing that using the F key as well. So that's how we change the external side of the wall. The other really important thing that we can set here is the justification. The justification drop-down box tells PlansXpress which side of the wall to draw with your mouse clicks. So if you select another option, you'll see the effect that that has. You put your place your cursor back on the drawing screen, you'll see the effect it has. So there's a left, right and a center justification. And this obviously is really important for determining where the wall is drawn on screen. So in this case, we need left justification because we're placing the points on the left-hand side of the wall. You can also use a shortcut key to change the justification. And once you become more confident using the software, it's quite handy to use the shortcut keys. It's much quicker. If you press the J for justification key on your keyboard, that will set the justification of your wall. So have a play around with using the J key. And once you finish doing that, select the left justification option from the drop-down box, or ensure you've selected it with the J key. You might find it useful to have a copy of the shortcut key guide beside you when you're drawing with PlansXpress, and hopefully you've had that sent over to you as well. Okay, so we've placed the first point on our wall so far, so now we need to place the other end of the wall. The instructions are telling us to give the next point. So locate the intersection snap point on the opposite side of the existing building. You may find a perpendicular point appears because you're locating a point which is perpendicular to the original one. They're actually the same point, so it doesn't matter whether it's a perpendicular point or an intersection point. But once you've located it, click the left mouse button to place the next point on the walls. You'll see that PlansXpress is then ready to continue clicking and placing more corners on your wall. But we've finished drawing the length of wall that we need for the existing building, so we can just press the Escape key. As you'll recall, that drops the current tool, so that will cancel drawing our external walls. So you'll see that the wall has appeared there in bold red, in a bold red line. So this is because we're working in scan mode. You can switch on off scan mode at any time. To do that, you go back to the Views and 3D tab, click the Pens button, and in the Display drop-down box, you select Default. You don't have to do this at your end. If I just do it at my end, you can see what your walls look like if you're not in scan mode. Obviously, you can't see what you're doing as easily, so most of the time you're going to want to leave scan mode switched on. So I'll switch scan mode back on. It makes tracing over your plans much easier. Okay, so we've drawn the rear wall of the existing building, but at the moment, when we import this drawing into Estimator Express, that wall is going to be estimated. So we need to set it to be non-estimated. So first of all, you need to click on the wall select the wall by clicking on it with your left mouse button. You'll see that these blue and red handles appear on the wall to indicate that it's been selected. If you then go to the Modify and Selection tab, we want to click the Set Selection as Non-Estimated. So we've gone to Modify and Selection, and we're going to select the Set Selection as Non-Estimated button. It's a bit of a mouthful, but what it will do is set the item that you've selected to not be estimated when it's imported. A dialog box pops up saying, are you sure you want to do this? Click Yes. And you'll see that the hatching of the wall has disappeared. That shows us that the walls are non-estimated. Another way you can check whether items are non-estimated is to hover your cursor over the wall, and on the second from bottom line you'll see it says estimated no. So we know that's not going to be added to the estimate cost. Okay, so now let's draw the walls that we do want to estimate, the extension walls. Click on the Architectural tab, click on the External Walls drop-down menu. We're going to select Brick and Block Cavity Walls again. And we'll select the same template as we did last time, the ground floor cavity wall, 2.325 high, floor to joist height, single story template. As I said before, if you select a multi-story template, it will add an additional 225 millimeters for the floor above. So click on that template to select it, and the dimension wizard comes up again. You'll remember that page 1 prompts you to enter the wall dimensions. The information you enter here is required to draw the walls and also to estimate once you import your drawing into Estimator Express. So we need to review each dimension carefully. So check you're happy with the wall height and the width of the external leaf and the internal leaf. check you're happy with the height of coursing blocks above DPC if you need any. We'll leave them all as they are for now, but you can obviously tweak them to suit your particular job. Then click Next. So page 2 of the Dimension Wizard deals with the foundations. So let's switch on those tech tips again. You'll recall that when we click into an input box and we've got tech tips switched on, we get an explanation of which dimension we need to enter. So this explains exactly what we need to enter for the foundation depth below site strip, and what to enter for the foundation width. There's also inputs for 2 depths of concrete. We've got structural concrete and mass concrete, should you need to pour any mass concrete. We're going to leave them set as they are for now, but of course change them as you need to suit your particular job. We've got 2 more input boxes here. The first one is whether we need to plank and strut the excavation. We're going to set this to no, as this is quite a shallow foundation. You can enter a capital N or a lowercase n, it doesn't matter. As long as you've got the letter N typed in there, it won't plank and strut the excavation when we import the estimate. And then underneath we've got the bulking of excavated material. So this is the multiplying factor for soil, for how much soil bulks up when it's removed from the ground and put into a skip. So typically soil increases in volume by about 50%. This figure goes towards calculating how many skips are required. So we'll leave that set at 1.5 for now. Of course, all this information we're entering now is done so that PlansXpress can accurately estimate the cost of building the walls from our foundations and footings upwards. So click Next and have a look at the footing details. This screen has got quite a lot of information on it, so if you tick Show Tech Labels box at the bottom of the screen, you'll get some labels that help you identify the different parts of the footing. We aren't going to change any of the dimensions today. They're all fairly typical, but of course you can change them when you're drawing and estimating for real. If you just spend a moment hovering your cursor over each input box, you'll see a little message pops up telling you which dimension you need to enter. On the right hand side of the screen here we have options for insulation and DPC, so they're set to yes by default, as you'd expect. Once you've had a good look at that screen, we'll click Next. So page 4 deals with the plastering and decoration options for the wall. So you'll see we've got 5 options determining whether the wall is plastered, whether it's decorated, how many skirting boards there are, whether the skirting board is going to be primed, and whether it's going to be decorated. So note that the number of skirting boards here is set to 1, as it's a single story wall. If you had selected a multi-story template, there would be 2, one for the downstairs and one for the upstairs. If you don't want to fit skirting board for any reason, you could obviously set that to 0, and then the bottom 2 input boxes would become irrelevant. So once you've reviewed those as you need to, change them if you want, click Finish. And once again, PlansXpress is ready to start drawing the walls. It's telling us to give the start point for the walls. So this time we want to locate the intersection point on the right hand side of the extension where this construction line meets the existing wall of the house. So you might find an intersection point or an end point. You might find it helpful to zoom in by using the scroll wheel. So there we can see it's an intersection point and an end point. Whichever one it is, it doesn't matter, it's the same point. Click the left mouse button then to place the start of the walls. when you're drawing anything, it's really important that you click and release the left mouse button. Don't hold it down. With other drawing packages, often you do need to hold down the left mouse button, but with PlansXpress, you just click and release. So you can see the wall justification and external side are not correct at the moment. So using the justification and external side drop-down boxes, we need to change the justification to right so that we're placing the right-hand side of the wall with our mouse clicks, and then we need to select right for the external side so that we get the brickwork and the blockwork leaf in the correct place, otherwise we'll be drawing our walls inside out. So you'll remember you can set the justification and external side using the drop-down box, or you can use the J key to change the justification and the F key to change the external side to flip the walls. Okay, so once you've got the walls appearing in the correct place and the right way around, we can give the next point, which is what the command window is telling us to do. To focus in on this corner, you might want to drag the page down or scroll in using your scroll wheel on your mouse. So find the next snap point, the next corner of your walls. Here it's a perpendicular point on my screen. Click to place that point. Hold down the scroll wheel, drag your drawing page over, and continue working your way around the extension, clicking on each intersection or perpendicular point at the corners of the extension. Continue in this way then to finish drawing our horseshoe shape. And then you need to press the escape key on your keyboard. You'll notice here the wall hasn't quite teed in correctly. If that ever happens, there's a refresh button which is on the top right of your screen here. It's the green circle with the 2 arrows on. Click refresh and then that should correct any issues with teeing in. So hopefully now then you can see the estimated external walls of your extension in place. You can of course trace over internal walls in exactly the same way if you needed to. You would just select an internal wall type from the architectural tab before you do that. Okay, let's add some wall starters now to the drawing. Wall starters can be found on the external walls drop-down menu. So if you click on the arrow under the external walls menu. Just a note here about how the buttons on the architectural tab work. They're actually intelligent. They remember the last item you selected from the menu. So if you click on the image at the top, if I clicked on the external wall image here, PlansXpress would automatically prepare to draw the same external wall type again. So it would remember that I've just drawn a brick and block cavity wall 2.325 high wall, and it would select that template automatically again. So if you want to select something different from the menu, you need to click on the arrow at the bottom. You'll see the button's actually divided into 2 sections. So click on the arrow under external wall, and just over halfway down you'll see there's a wall starters option. So if you hover your cursor over wall starters, there's 4 different heights. So we're going to pick the 2.325 high wall option. And here we can estimate our wall starters. So as the input boxes are white, it indicates that all of these dimensions or options that we're putting in are to estimate the wall starters. For speed, you can enter the total length of wall starter required. So we've got 4 different leaves of wall to connect, and they're 2.325 meters high, so that totals 9.3 meters. So in this height of wall input box here, you can highlight the text by dragging your cursor over it and then type 9.3. All of the dimensions we're entering here, you'll notice, are in meters. You can then set how much time you think it will take to fit these wall starters. Let's say it'll take 2 hours. Indicate whether the joint is going to be sealed and add an allowance for any sundry items it suggests you might need, drill bits or so on. So once you've filled out those input boxes, click Finish. Now, PlansXpress is ready to place the wall starter symbol, so it's telling us to give the insertion point. Hover your cursor over where you want to place the wall starter. So you'll need to zoom in, scroll towards the screen with your cursor over where you want to place the wall starter. And then once you're happy with the position of it, simply click the left mouse button to place it. So that places the item, but the command window is now telling us to give the rotation of the item. So you can see as I move my cursor around here, you can select the rotation of it. If you hold down the Shift key on your keyboard, that will lock the rotation to 45-degree increments. So that's quite good for ensuring that you're drawing your symbols when you're placing them, you're drawing them straight or perpendicular on screen. So holding down the Shift key, move your cursor until the wall starter is correctly orientated, and then click the left mouse button to select the rotation. Of course, we need to place 3 more of these. If you want to repeat the last action, press the right button on your mouse. Click the right mouse button, and you'll see the command window is telling us to give insertion point, and it's ready to place another wall starter. So at any time, if you want to repeat what you've just done, click the right mouse button. So place the wall starter where you want it, click the left mouse button to place it, then hold down the Shift key, move your cursor so the rotation of the symbol is correct, then click the left mouse button to place that wall starter. So that's one side of the extension done. Drag your page over by holding down the mouse scroll wheel, then right click to say I want to place another wall starter, I want to repeat what I've just done, and place your final 2 wall starters. So click to place it, hold down the Shift key, click to accept the rotation, then right click to draw your final one, place it on the wall, hold down the Shift key, and then click the left mouse button to place that final wall starter. If you want to add toothing into your drawing, you can do that in a very similar way. If you click on the external walls drop down menu, there's an option for toothing in of brickwork and blockwork. Okay, so if I zoom out by scrolling my mouse away from the screen, you can see how our extension's coming together. Let's place this structural opening now on this wall here. Once you import your drawing into Estimator Express will estimate the cost of forming the opening in the existing wall, in addition to all the materials required such as the universal beam, pad stones, engineering bricks, and plastering to the reveals and so on. So to get started, on the Architectural tab you will need to click the Openings and Steelwork drop-down button. Here you'll see there's a variety of different opening and steelwork options. For our example today, we're going to use the structural opening to an existing wall, and we're going to select the medium opening template. So click on that medium opening template, and the structural opening dimensions wizard pops up. So there's several things we need to look at carefully here. So first of all, you need to check that the opening width and opening height are correct. Let's set the opening width to 3.6 meters. We've got the lintel end bearing. If I show tech tips, you'll be able to see better. The lintel bearing is set to 150 millimeters, which is pretty standard, but obviously you can change that if you need to. Then on the right hand side we have several options for the packing of the underside of the lintel. You'll probably want pad stones, so you can leave that set to yes, and then you can enter the number of bricks and slates required. And then finally we've got the bulking factor for spoil. So similar to the bulking factor for soil that we looked at earlier, the bulking factor for spoil from the wall is because when bricks and blocks are thrown into a skip, they take up about twice as much space as they do when they're in the wall. So Estimator Express will use the opening dimensions and the bulking factor to work out how much of a skip is required to remove the spoil from the opening. So let's click next. On the next screen then we've got the reveal depth. I'm going to set that to 0.3 to match our walls. We've also got the spacing of noggings and the length of them. You can change those if need be. And then you can tell the software if you want the reveals to be plastered, how many angle beads you need, and whether you want the reveals to be painted. I'm going to leave them all set to the defaults for now. Of course, these details aren't required to draw the opening, but they are used for the estimating later on. So once you've checked all of those dimensions and options, click Finish. The command window is now telling us to give an insertion point on the wall, so you need to tell PlansXpress where you want to place this opening. So hover your cursor over the wall. You might want to zoom in by scrolling towards the screen. Now what we're going to do is just use the existing plans as a guide for placing the opening. You can place openings more accurately by entering the distance from the end of a wall or another opening, but for the purposes of taking off, this is obviously accurate enough. So using the existing drawing as a guide, click your left mouse button once you're happy with the position of the opening. So if you zoom back out, once you've clicked to place it, you'll see that's the opening, the structural opening dealt with. Let's add the concrete slab now to our extension. This takes just a minute or two. So if we go back to the Architectural tab, click the Flooring drop-down menu, and you want to use the Floor Slabs option, Floor Slabs type. We're going to select the extension slab and the unreinforced slab for our job today. If we switch the tips and tech labels on in the Dimensions wizard, we can see that we can enter the thickness of the sand blinding and the thickness of subbase. Change them if you need, and then click Next. Here we can enter the thickness of the slab itself, so I'm going to change that to 0.15 and say it's a 150mm slab going in. And then you can check the options on the right hand side, indicate whether you want a DPM, what the overlap of the DPM is around the perimeter of the slab, whether there's insulation to the underside of the slab, and whether there's a reinforcement to the bottom or the top. Obviously that is partly determined by the template you've just selected, so because we selected an unreinforced option, these are both set to no. Finally, you can say if you want the slab to be power float finished. So click Next once you've checked those details. And then finally, you can type in some plant allowances for your particular job. It may be that you want to add some in there. We'll whiz through it for now, but when you're estimating for real, you want to make sure there's some figures in there, and then click Finish. So the instructions are telling us to give the first corner of the floor. The bit in brackets on supporting wall 1 isn't relevant for a slab. The same instructions come up when you're placing a timber floor, so ignore the bit in brackets for now. So what you need to do is locate an intersection or end point on the back wall of the existing property. Actually, it doesn't matter whether you do it on the back wall of the extension or the existing property, but let's do it on the back wall of the extension. So locate a corner point. It might be an intersection or end point, and then click on it to place it. The instructions then tell us to give the second corner, so let's click onto the opposite corner on the back wall of the extension. And then finally it says indicate the length of the floor, so we just need to click anywhere on the opposite side of the extension, and you'll see some hatching appears indicating where the slab is. and a box pops up asking if we want to place perimeter insulation on this slab. Let's click yes. In the dimensions wizard, just click that you're just check that you're happy with the depth of perimeter insulation, and click finish. The command window tells us to give the start point, so we're basically just going to click around the perimeter of the room. Helps to zoom in to make sure you're clicking accurately. There we go. Click back to the start. There we go. Now that you can see the grey insulation around the perimeter of the room. So once you've finished drawing your insulation, press the escape key. PlansXpress asks if you want to place perimeter insulation again, because sometimes when you're doing multiple slabs you might want to do multiple lengths of insulation. So we'll click no for now. And that is our concrete slab and our perimeter insulation sorted. Now let's have a think about the doors and windows. So we're going to add a bifold door to the rear of the extension here. So on the architectural tab, you want to click on the doors drop-down menu, and we're going to select the bifold doors option. And then we want to select the bifold doors aluminium type. And we're going to select the 3000, so 3 meter wide, 4-panel door. So once you've located that bifold 3000 by 2100 4-panel door, click on it to select it. And here we can have a look at the dimensions wizard for the door. So firstly, it's giving us the door dimensions and the bulking factor for the spoil if appropriate. Then click next. The next screen deals with the reveal and jam details. So you can tweak those if you need to. Then click next. The next screen is all about the plastering and threshold details. So indicate whether you want to plaster the reveals and the sill, whether you've got an internal threshold board, and some dimensions relating to the threshold board. Of course, for our, if you don't have a threshold board, then these bottom two inputs become irrelevant. So click next. And then finally, you can work your way through the decoration options for the threshold board, for the external sill, for the reveals, for the door frame and the door. Of course, for our aluminium door, no decoration is required, so they're all set to no by default. So once you're happy with all those decoration finishes, click finish. And you're now ready to place the door. If you hover your cursor over the wall, you'll see the symbol where the door is going to be inserted. As with the structural opening, we're just going to use the original plans to help us place the door by eye. You might want to scroll in so you can see better, and click the left mouse button once you're happy with its position. You haven't quite finished placing the doors yet because the command window is telling us to give the door alignment. So basically that means we can dictate which way the doors open. So in this case, we're going to have them opening outwards. So once you've clicked to indicate the door alignment, you just place your cursor on the side of the wall that you want the doors to open. Click the left mouse button. PlansXpress is then ready to place another wall. You can place multiple doors one after another. That's quite handy when you're doing larger properties, so you don't have to go through the selection process again. But we've only got the one door, so we need to press escape to finish drawing doors. You can draw and estimate your windows in exactly the same way. So to estimate your windows, go to the Windows drop-down menu. We're going to select the PVCU standard windows. We'll select the 1200 deep type. And we're going to select that smallest window, the 600 by 1200 window. The Windows dimension wizard is very, very similar to the door dimension wizard. So here we can see the dimensions of the window rather. The height of the lintel will dictate where the window appears in elevations, so it's important to get that figure correct as well. So once you've checked the dimensions, click Next. Check you're happy with the reveal and jamb details for the window and the plastering and sill details. Again, exactly the same as the door dimensions wizard. And then finally we've got the decoration specification. So we can say whether we want sealant to be applied, whether we want to prime and paint the window externally and internally, whether we want to decorate the window board. Obviously, as it's a PVC window, the window decoration options are set to no. Here you can see we're painting the reveals. So once you've worked through those options, checked you're happy with them, changed any if necessary, click Next. So again, the command window is telling us to give the insertion point. So all we need to do is zoom in on this wall where the window is, make sure the symbol is placed correctly, using those original plans as a guide, and then click to place the window. We don't need to select the window alignment because there's no opening inwards or outwards. So just one click and the window's in place. If you're ready to place another window of the same specification, you can carry on clicking and placing them. But if you're done placing windows of that spec, press the Escape key on your keyboard. And you'll see we've finished placing our windows. So you can place staircases, plumbing and heating, electrics, kitchens, bathrooms, drainage and so on to your plans in a very similar way. And as you do that, you're building up your estimate as you go along. Alternatively, you can add some components to your estimate later on once you've imported the drawing into Express. It's up to you whether you want to do it all on the drawing, or whether you want to do some on the drawing and some in the estimate. Okay, finally then, in terms of this design, let's add the roof. So the roof of this extension, you'll remember, is a simple lean-to roof. So you need to find the Roofs drop-down menu on the Architectural tab. We're going to select the cut roof type, and we're going to select the typical 30-degree cut roof. The angle of the pitch of the roof isn't set in stone, so choose the template which is closest to your roof. So this roof is actually a really low-pitched roof, so I'm choosing the lowest pitched template. So from the dimensions wizard here, we can set the pitch. I'm going to set this to 15 degrees in this case. If you read this note at the top here, you'll notice that for a lean-to roof, you only need to enter a dimension into the pitch of roof side 1. Obviously, if you're doing an apex roof, you would need to change it on both sides. But for our lean-to roof, just make sure it's correct on side 1. So check you're happy with the overall thickness of the roof. You'll notice that's a yellow box, so it's used to draw the roof. So we can leave that as it is. This dimension here deals with barn hips, so we can ignore that for now. It's not relevant to the shape of roof that we're drawing. You can check and edit the soffit width to the gables and to the eaves. You can change them if need be. Then click Next. I'll just go back for a second actually and point out that here you'll see there's some extra options for the timber and roof strap details. If you click on there, you can just have a look at what's there. We're not going to go into it in any detail. These secondary screens deal with items that are set to really default values, and you won't very often need to change. So you won't need to review them every time you estimate, but just so you know that they're there. So if we click back to the roof structural information and then click Next, here we can see that the rafter centres are set to 400mm, as are the joist centres. You can ignore the hip corner tie, again, not relevant to our lean-to roof. You can set whether you want barge boards and what the height of those barge boards are, and the same for the fascias. Do you want fascias and what's the height of them? The bottom left here, you'll see there's some extra details here. This time it relates to the gutters. secondary screens are set to sensible defaults, so you won't need to review them often, but just to show you they're there. So we'll go back to the roof structural information and click Next. So we've got options here relating to tile and halves, which we don't need to look at in this case. Just to note, on moving between the input boxes on screen, you can press the Tab key on your keyboard. So I'm pressing the Tab key here, and that's another way of moving quickly around the screen rather than having to click with your mouse. So here we've got an option to fit sarking board, which often happens north of the border. It's set to no by default, but you can change it if you do need to use it. One thing you will need to check is the spacing of the tile lath or battens. This does vary a lot because if you're fitting clay tiles, it's likely to be 100mm, but if you're using a modern pan tile, you'll need to set that to 300mm, so I'm going to set that to 0.3 because that's what we're going to use. So if you could set your spacing of tile lath to 0.3 meters. We'll leave the insulation usage factor as it is. Click Next. And then the final screen, as is often the case, deals with finishes. So you can say whether you want to prime and decorate the barge boards. So obviously if you were fitting softwood barge boards and fascias, then you'd set that to yes. As it is, it's assuming we're using PVC-U ones. So we'll leave that set to no, and the same for the soffits. If you were using softwood, then you could set it to decorate if you needed. So once you're happy with those decoration finishes, click Finish. And you get this box popping up here asking you to select a roof type. If you hover over each diagram, you get an explanation at the bottom of how to draw each type of roof, which is quite handy if you are drawing a valley roof, for example. It tells you how to tee it into an existing roof, or how to have a gable abutment against a wall. So that's quite handy if you need a bit of help with drawing your roof to start with. Obviously for now we want the lean-to roof option. So you can click anywhere, you can click on the circular button, you can click on the description or on the diagram to select the roof shape that you want to use. And once you've done that, click OK. So PlansXpress is ready to draw the roof. There's just 4 steps to drawing a roof. Take a look at the command window for those step-by-step instructions on what to do. So the first instruction tells us to indicate wall line that the roof is on. So PlansXpress will take the wall plate height from the wall that we click on. So it doesn't really matter which extension wall you click on, it can be any of these 3 walls and it will give the correct wall plate height. So I'm going to click on the back wall of the extension, just as an example. The next instruction tells us to indicate the outer corner of the building. So in the case of a lean-to roof, the outer corner means the bottom of the gable. So if we click on the outer corner of the extension here, the next instruction tells us to indicate the second corner. So this is the top of the gable here. You might need to zoom in to make sure you click on exactly the right point. So click on the top left of the gable where it meets the existing building. You should find an endpoint there, as we can see on screen. Zoom out again. Drag the page over because we now need to indicate the corner for the length of the building. So if you click on the opposite end of the eaves, that will indicate the length of our lean-to roof. And after a moment, you'll see the roof appears on screen. Now a box pops up asking if we want to add some extras, such as flat ceiling, vaulted ceiling, purlins, binders, and rainwater pipes. Let's just go through drawing a vaulted ceiling. So if you click yes, the box pops up saying, do you want to place a flat ceiling? Well, no, not in this case, we're going to put a vaulted ceiling in. So to the box which asks, do you want to place an area of vaulted ceiling, click yes. And here we can see the ceiling dimensions wizard. give you a moment just to have a quick read through those different options. So Estimator Express, you can see all these input boxes are white, so Estimator Express will later estimate the insulation, plastering and the decoration to our vaulted ceiling. So I'm happy with the defaults as they are, so I'm just going to click Finish. Take a look at the command window again because it's telling us to select the eaves line. This is so that PlansXpress knows where the bottom of the vaulted ceiling is and where the top is. So if you click on the eaves line on the rear of the extension, and then it tells us to give the start point. So as you did with the perimeter insulation, we're going to click around the inside of the extension to indicate where the ceiling will be. So we'll start on the top left again, locate and click on each of those endpoints or perpendicular points. Scrolling in and out if you need to using your scroll wheel, and dragging the page if you need to by holding down the scroll wheel. So click all the way around, then press the Escape key on your keyboard to finish drawing the ceiling. A box pops up asking if you want to draw another area of vaulted ceiling. We're going to click No, and we're going to click No to all of the options asking if you want to add purlins, binders and rainwater pipes. Of course, if you've got a bit more time, you want to go through and add those different elements to your drawing and therefore to your estimate. Okay, so we've got our ceiling in place there now as well. Let's take a quick look at the 3D model then that PlansXpress has been putting together as we've been drawing our plans. You might have the 3D view tab visible on the right hand side of your screen. If it's not, if for any reason that window isn't visible, you can always go to the Views in 3D tab and click 3D Preview. You can see because it's highlighted in blue, it's actually switched on at the moment. If I switch it off, clicking 3D Preview will switch it on and it will appear on the right hand side of your screen. Alternatively, if it's already on screen, all you need to do is click 3D View. You can make this 3D View window bigger if for example yours is very narrow, you want to see it better. You hover your cursor over the edge of the window and you can drag it out so that your 3D model is larger on screen. You can drag, you can rotate your model and you can drag it. To rotate the model, you need to hold down the left mouse button and move your cursor. So if you move it to the left or the right, it will rotate it side to side. And if you hold down the left mouse button and drag it down, you can view it from the top, or drag up, you can view it from the bottom. So you can rotate the model. You can also zoom in and out using your scroll wheel. So just as you do on the drawing, scrolling towards the screen will zoom in, scrolling away from the screen will zoom out. So that's how to interact with the 3D model. You can click the Home button here at any time to reset your 3D visualization to its original view. And you'll see from this drop-down box here, there's several different modes that you can view your model in. You can look at just a shaded version, wireframe, or transparent even. I'm going to set it to textured for now, as that gives the most detail. Now, of course, you'll see this is slightly unusual in that we've only got part of a wall here. You can, of course, draw the existing property in full if you want to use the 3D visualizations to show your client, or if you need more drawing detail for planning and for regs. But we've done the minimum of the existing building so that we can estimate correctly. Before you import your drawing into Estimator Express, you'll obviously need to save it. Ideally, you should be saving your drawing at regular intervals anyway. And then you can backtrack if you make a mistake or you need to make a design change. It makes life much easier. So if you click the Save button, which is the old floppy disk at the top left of the screen, Select a location to save your file. And we're going to call this number 6 Pennine Lane. Type in the file name once you've selected your location, then click Save. And then the drawing is saved. So that completes Module 1 of our Rapid Takeoff and Estimate course. Well done.